compact design, stainless steel blades, and a 300-watt motor. That's what this Bonsenkitchen Basis Immersion Blender brings to your kitchen. It promises smooth blending, quick cleaning, and easy storage. But does it actually deliver that power in practice? In this video, we'll test it on everything from smoothies to thick soups and see if it's worth your money. I'm Tina and welcome back to our Shouldit Blender Series. We're just about ready to begin our first test, but before we do, it would be right if you took a moment to read how Shouldit Test Immersion Blenders. It's a short, simple explanation of how we approach every review, the steps we follow, and what we pay attention to during each blend. Once you have had a look, we'll ease into our first trial, the hot soup puree test. We began with a simple mix of chicken broth, onions, celery, pumpkin, and carrot, all cooked together under pressure until tender. The soup stayed between 136 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the same control range we use across all our tests. When everything reached the right texture and temperature, we blended it for 30 seconds at full speed. Overall, the pureeing process went pretty smoothly with the Bonsenkitchen. The one gripped the bottom a little bit, but you can still move it around without much effort. Better yet, it didn't cause splatter even when we were blending at the strongest speed, which made the process cleaner and easier to control. The final puree came out slightly creamy and consistent. After straining it through a fine mesh, a small amount of fiber bits remained, which suggested that the blender reached a workable puree, yet stopped short of an entirely silky finish. However, for everyday homemade soup, this result was acceptable. Hot soup puree, 8 out of 10. After the soup, we switched to something chill, a frozen smoothie prepared with mango, pineapple, kale, and water. Actually, making a frozen smoothie with a hand blender is never easy, so it was no surprise when our Bonsenkitchen could crush the kale fine, but once it hit icy chunks, the motor had to work harder and slow down a bit. Not only this, but it also needed some help along the way, mostly a few short bursts and some light tilting to keep it from bogging down. Thanks to the balanced weight, though, we didn't find this process especially demanding. Even when during more than 2 minutes of blending, we had to intervene more often than we would with a higher power blender. The end result was a drinkable smoothie, free from lumps and tasted great. However, it wasn't as icy as we expected. With prolonged runtime, the fruit gradually thawed and softened the texture, thus reducing the chilling feel. If icy smoothies are your weekly habit, it will be better to get yourself a countertop blender. As an occasional challenge, this Bonsenkitchen can serve you, but only with patience and a few trade-offs. Smoothie, 4.8 out of 10. Before continuing with the rest of the review, we'd like to be clear that this isn't a paid promotion. Every hand blender we test is self-funded to ensure unbiased evaluations and honest ratings. If you find this video helpful, a like and subscribe would be a huge support. The third test was mayonnaise, created by mixing 3 egg yolks with 240 ml of oil. We ran the blender at its lowest setting, and the emulsion built up nicely after mixing for a while. And with every second pass, it grew thicker, glossier, and more cohesive. At the same time, the blades were doing their job beautifully, pulling everything toward the center in a tight, even vortex. You could see the surface ripple in smooth circles, no splatter, no chalky pool, just a satisfying motion where everything moves at once. Eventually, the mayonnaise worked out fine. It looked even, spread easily, and didn't trip up the spoon. It wasn't as thick as the store-bought version, but perhaps this was because our recipe was a little low on oil. And most importantly, it was stable and pleasant, with no oil separating on top. Mayonnaise, 7.3 out of 10. In this test, we focus on almond milk. 1 cup of raw almonds went in with 3 cups of filtered water, and the Bonsenkitchen ran at full speed to check how finely it could break everything down into a smooth, milky texture. And turns out, this test was one of the biggest surprises of all, in a good way. We had expected a bit of splashing or sputtering that usually happens with other blenders when blending a liquid-based mixture in a shallow cup. Still, none of that happened, and the whole process stayed clean from start to finish. The blender also ran steadily and composed the whole time. It didn't create a strong vacuum at the bottom as some models tend to do, which allowed for easier movement and kept the mixture circulating evenly. Due to that, the mixture turned milky fast, and in just 50 seconds, it could achieve a rich consistency with a light nutty aroma. When we strained it, the liquid ran through cleanly, leaving behind soft, finely ground almond residues that show how effectively the blender blended. We really enjoyed this test. Almond milk, 8.5 out of 10. Lastly, we evaluated its performance as a hand mixer by whipping 100 ml of egg whites. Unfortunately, our Bonsenkitchen didn't pass this test. Whipping requires a whisk attachment to draw air into the mixture. Meanwhile, the Bonsen's blending wand is designed just for cutting and mixing, not aerating. The blades burn quickly enough to develop a thin layer of purples on the surface, but there was no structure or lift beneath it, so the texture never developed volume or stiffness. It stayed glossy and flat even after 3 minutes of mixing. Actually, any hand blender without a whisk accessory would behave the same way, so if you need proper whipped egg whites, considering going with the advanced Bonsen 4-in-1 Immersion Blender, which can help you get the job done in a pinch. Whipped egg whites, 0 out of 10. So, taking all 5 tests into account, the Bonsenkitchen Basis achieved an overall performance rating of 6.6 out of 10. So the Bonsenkitchen Basic Immersion Blender is a nice value for its class. It's basic but pretty capable. Sure, it won't rival higher tier options, but that's not what it's built for, and its price tells you that right away. All you get is an average build quality, a modest motor, and a straightforward feature set, which are more than enough for small to medium batches of soups, sauces, or light smoothies. A few compromises definitely come along the way. They include the blender's habit of sticking to the bottom during use, as well as its reduced food drawing capability, especially when blending denser ingredients like raw nuts or frozen stuff. Still, that is expected and not really a deal breaker considering its low price. As long as you keep your expectations reasonable, you're likely to be happy with the overall experience. That's it for our review of the Bonsenkitchen Basic Immersion Blender. You can find more details through the links in the description or explore other options in our Shouldit Blender series. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you catch our upcoming reviews. Thanks for watching Shouldit, and see you in the next video. Bye!